How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Weather Sponge. 5000. Today is January 17, 2022, and we're going to talk about the next major northeast snowstorm that could bring over a foot of snow to millions of Americans by this weekend. Before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the computer models, the European model at this time, and of course, we're seeing that low pressure that brought a lot of snow throughout the interior northeast now beginning to move to the northeast. So is it going to be much of a worry with outside of the next maybe 6 hours? So nothing to worry about really here when it comes to the long-term future. But if we were to continue to move forward, you're going to see that we're going to see quite a big cool down right behind this trough as a result of a strong northwesterly flow associated with this low pressure system, bringing all that Arctic air further southward into the northeast, and we see a pronounced jet stream dip as a result. And you know, when there's a pronounced jet stream dip during the winter, that's pretty much asking for a very unstable environment and pretty much a recipe for a major snowstorm to eventually develop when we see a jet stream dip this pronounced, because of course that means that the cold air is going to interact with the very warm Gulf of Mexico air that's going to create a lot of convection right around this region, and that's going to be one of the key factors that will lead to potentially our next major snowstorm in the northeast. But if we were to shift our focus westward, you do see that Eclipse system is moving through, and while for the most part it's going to stay north of the United States Canadian border, it's going to be very key when developing this next major snowstorm from the northeast, because you see that again behind it we see a strong northerly flow that's going to bring a lot of that Arctic air further southward from Canada down into the United States. And as a result of this, we see the denser air pretty much make the lighter and warmer air further southward, closer to the southeast, a lot more buoyant for convection to occur. And as a result, we see a low pressure system develop right around the Arkansas area, right around midweek this week. So this is definitely something we're going to need to keep in mind, and definitely we're going to need to watch how strong that northerly flow will be, because that'll make a key difference in terms of whether or not this next low pressure system will lead to our next snowstorm. So if we were to continue to move forward, you see that we do see a little bit of a frontal boundary form, and we still see that pronounced jet stream dip as a result of this low pressure bringing a strong northerly flow, and we see thunderstorms develop along this frontal boundary. And if we were to continue to move forward, we do see that there's going to be a couple of rain showers throughout the southeast and maybe a little bit of snow showers, but the primary low pressure system will develop, I'd say, probably around the Friday time frame on January 21st, pretty much just off the southern coast of Louisiana, where we do see a little bit more thunderstorm activity occurring. And continuing to move forward with that, we definitely see that low pressure rapidly intensify, and we see an even more pronounced jet stream dip and almost a sort of a negative tilt with the jet stream. And if you don't know what a negative tilt really is, it's when the jet stream sort of positions itself to where we see the westerly winds sort of move slightly to the southwest rather than the east. And what that brings is that it brings just a ton of instability in a case like that, because we see a very strong amount of cold air interacting with the warm air, and that's going to create a very unstable environment for this low pressure system to occur. And that's what the European model is forecasting, because it expects a ridge to develop right around the Midwest. And if we were to continue to move forward, you see that the low pressure rapidly intensifies. We see enough cold air on the northern side for the precipitation to fall in the form of snowfall, and you see that this snow area is very, very large, and this is a very powerful nor'easter. This is one of those classic blizzard type nor'easters you typically see, like just a classic, just textbook like snowstorm, major snowstorm for the northeast, where we see a mid-latitude cyclone just off the northeast coast, a large area of snow on the northwestern side of this storm, and a lot of thunderstorm activity occurring on the eastern side. Just a classic look, which pretty much means that it's a quite formidable and powerful low pressure system when we see that comma shape or mid-latitude cyclone look, and you see that heavy snow showers are associated with it, especially closer to a low pressure system. And moving forward, you see that this snow is very heavy. There's probably going to be wind associated with it too, as this is just a classic and very powerful nor'easter, and it's not only impacting the less populated interior sections of the Northeast, it's affecting all the major cities: Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, as well as Boston in this scenario. And it would just bring a lot of snowfall and blizzard-like conditions if this were the case. And however, I will point out that we're still around 5 days out with this forecast, and of course, you know, a lot could change between now and 5 days from now. So we do still need to take this with a big grain of salt, especially since the GFS model, which is another very reliable computer model, isn't necessarily agreeing with what the European model is saying at all. If we were to continue to move forward, while yes, for the short-term future, they're both pretty much in line with each other. There's going to be a small clipper system moving through the United States, and it will bring, and the GFS model does also agree that it's going to bring a strong northerly flow with it that will create a pronounced jet stream dip throughout the Midwest, and just enough of an unstable environment throughout the Southeast for somewhat of a low pressure system or frontal boundary to occur along this pronounced jet stream dip. And you see that it does develop a low pressure system. However, it pretty much stays primarily off the coast. And in terms of the second low pressure system, you see that while it does bring a little bit of mix and snow for the Southeast, which is something you guys want to pay attention to, the Southeast, by the way, especially since both the European model and the GFS model are agreeing that there's going to be snow in the Southeast. The GFS model doesn't necessarily take that storm as far northward, and the primary reason why is because the GFS model does not forecast that there's going to be enough of a pronounced jet stream dip for the jet stream winds to steer more from a southerly direction than a westerly direction. Because if I were to show you how the jet stream is positioning itself right around the 96-hour mark, you see that while there is a pronounced jet stream dip, you see that just to the north of this convection occurring right around southeast, you see that the jet stream winds are pretty much primarily moving to the west, maybe west northwest, but pretty much towards the west. If we were to compare that to the European model, it's a completely different scenario, where in the European model, if we were to move to the 96-hour mark, the same time frame as GFS, we see a much more pronounced jet stream dip, and the jet stream winds are facing more from a southwesterly direction than a westerly direction, which is what the GFS model is forecasting. So really what will determine the track of this low pressure system is how far this jet stream dip how pronounced this jet stream dip will be, and it depends on if this ridge really builds in the right along the Midwest. Because if we see a very powerful ridge build and bring a stronger northerly flow right around the United States, then we're more likely to see a more pronounced jet stream dip towards Texas, and when there's a more pronounced jet stream dip, that would mean that the winds are coming more from the southwesterly direction for the low pressure to sort of move closer to the northeast, rather than the GFS model, where the jet stream winds are primarily facing from the west, and that would mean that coming from the west, and that would mean that the low pressure would primarily stay to the south, maybe bring snow to the southeast, but not really the major snowstorm to the northeast. So it's definitely going to be a close call within the next couple of days, really depending on how far south this jet stream will dip. And it's going to take, and it will probably take several days for the forecast to iron it out, because we're going to need to wait and see till this clipper system moves through, which will be key within the next 24 to 48 hours. Because if this low pressure system does bring a little bit more stronger northerly of a northerly wind component than what the GFS model is forecasting, then we're more likely to see a major snowstorm from the northeast. But if I were to show you the current snowfall accumulation forecast, assuming the European model's case is correct when it comes to this potential snowstorm, let's move to right around the 5-day mark. You see that it would bring extremely major snow to the northeast if this were to be the case. You see that Virginia is receiving well over a foot of snow, probably around 12 to 24 inches. Southern New Jersey is experiencing over a foot of snow. Long Island, Massachusetts, and exceeding the higher elevations, you also are experiencing over a foot of snow. And even outside of that, Philadelphia is pretty much receiving around a foot. New York City is receiving around a foot of snow. And even extending to North Carolina, you're experiencing 6 to 10 inches. And this extends even further southward, where even Atlanta could experience maybe 3 to 6 inches of snow. And this extends to Alabama as well. So it's going to be a very close forecast. We really need to see how strong of a northerly wind component we're going to experience in the United States over the next couple of days to really determine whether the European model will be correct or the GFS model is correct. But at this point, you could almost argue it's definitely more certain in the southeast you're going to experience snow, because even if the GFS model was correct, the GFS model is forecasting a snowstorm for the southeast. What really is, I think the big question is whether we'll see that low pressure system move all the way to the northeast, where we see a case sort of like the European model or the GFS model. Very close forecast. I wish I could give you guys it right now, but still a lot of uncertainty, especially 5 days out. So I'll make sure to update you guys as the computer models begin to iron out the forecast a little bit more over the next several days. So that's definitely something we're gonna need to keep in mind. But so yeah, this is definitely something that's going to be very important over the next several days to really determine if we're going to see a major snowstorm. So we just need to wait and see if this Clipper system will bring a strong northerly flow to the United States. Now, I want to also show you guys the Arctic oscillation over the next several days. And while we're in a positive right now, we're expecting to dip down to negatives, and that might contribute to a heavier snowstorm pattern over the next couple weeks, because when there's a negative Arctic oscillation, we're more likely to see stronger northerly winds for a more powerful snowstorms to develop. So it's something we're going to need to pay close attention to as well over the next several days to really determine how much snow you'll receive. And moving forward, this is my this is a European model snowstorm forecast. So it's definitely subject to change. The GFS model certainly is something we don't want to disregard. But again, if the European model's case was correct, you would receive 12 to 24 inches of snow in all the Interstate 95 corridor cities, including New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Boston, I meant to say. So it's something you want to be aware of. It's still far from certain. There's still easily a chance in the Northeast you don't experience any snow from this, but it's at least something you want to be aware of, especially in the Southeast and areas further northward as well. You need to pay attention to this. So make sure to keep that in mind over the next several days. Next, let's talk about this current snowstorm that brought well over a foot of snow in many areas of the interior Northeast. And we do still see some snow showers associated on the western side of this storm. So that's something you want to keep in mind, that there's going to still be some isolated snow showers moving around the Northeast over the next couple hours. Just because the low pressure system move to the north does not mean you're finished with the impact. So make sure to pay close attention to that. But this should move out relatively soon. You see that the snow, I'd say probably around tonight, the snow should be pretty much all gone from the Northeast, outside of maybe isolated lake effect snow going on. So that's definitely good news, but we definitely need to pay close attention to this next Northeast snowstorm that's going to move through. That could move through this weekend. But anyways, guys, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather relay content. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather relay content. And I hope you guys have a good day.